The keys. Your father does not make a speech. He does not sit you down in the living room and deliver a monologue about responsibility or freedom or the weight of what he is about to hand you. He is standing in the driveway on a Saturday morning in March holding a set of keys. The way he holds most things with both hands, like the object might be heavier than it looks. The car is a 1999 Camry, beige, 214,000 miles. A scratch on the passenger side that has been there longer than you have been alive. The driver's seat is worn into a shape that is not your shape. It is his shape. 9 years of his commute pressed into the fabric. When you sit in it for the first time, you sit inside the outline of your father and you do not think about this, but your body knows. He hands you the keys. He says, "Be careful." That is the entire ceremony. The car pulls to the left when you brake. The AC works only on the highest setting, which sounds like a helicopter. The radio has 2 preset stations, both his. You change them on the drive home. It is the first thing you change about his car to make it yours, and it will not be the last, but it is the one you will remember because it is the first time you erase something of his to make room for something of yours. Your friends refuse to ride in it. Marcus says it looks like a car that has given up on itself. You do not care. Not because you are above caring, because the car moves. Because at 17, movement is everything. The ability to go somewhere without asking, without waiting, without standing at a bus stop watching other people's lives pass in windshields. This car is not beautiful. It is not fast. It is yours in the way only a thing your father's hands touched first can be yours, which is a complicated kind of ownership you will not understand for another 20 years. You drive it for 3 years, 61,000 miles to your first job, to your first date where you park 2 blocks away because you do not want her to see it and then feel guilty about the parking, not the car. To the hospital the night your mother calls about your grandmother. To the beach at 2 o'clock in the morning because you cannot sleep and the highway at night feels like the only place big enough for what you are feeling. 61,000 miles. Every one of them happened to you. You sell the Camry for $600 to a man who does not ask its history. He counts the cash from a wallet held together with a rubber band. You hand him the keys the way your father handed them to you with both hands, like the object might be heavier than it looks. He does not notice. He drives away. You stand in the driveway and watch the beige disappear around the corner, and you feel something leave that you will spend the next 15 years trying to buy back. $100,000. You're 24. You buy your very first car with money you earned yourself. A 2006 Honda Civic, silver, 134,000 miles, $2,200 from a man named Phil, who owned a tiny used car lot off Route 9 and shook your hand with the kind of grip that told you he'd been selling cars longer than you'd been alive. The Civic leaks oil. You discover that on day 3 when a dark stain appears beneath it in your apartment parking space, like the car has started casting its shadow downward. You buy a case of oil from AutoZone and check the level every Sunday morning before washing it, which you also do every single Sunday. A bucket, a sponge, and a towel borrowed from your parents' house that your mother would never notice was gone. You wash that Civic every Sunday for 2 straight years. It isn't a car that deserves weekly washes. It's a car that deserves a quick hose down once a month at best. But you wash it anyway, because it's the first thing in your life you bought with money earned from a job you drove to in a car your father gave you. And the invisible chain of work connecting those 2 cars is the most valuable financial investment you'll ever own, even if you don't realize it yet. The Civic covers another 77,000 miles with you. First apartment move. First Thanksgiving, driving home alone on the interstate with a pecan pie sitting on the passenger seat, bought from a gas station because you forgot to grab one at the store, and your mother would have noticed if you showed up without it. She noticed anyway. She just never said a word. You got fired in that Civic, sat in a parking garage for 40 minutes with the engine off, the windows rolled up, and a feeling in your chest like someone had rearranged the furniture inside your soul. You drove home in complete silence. The Civic never asked what happened. The Civic never cared. And on that particular Tuesday, that was exactly what you needed. You kissed Nora for the first time in that Civic, parked outside her apartment, engine running because the heater only worked when it was running. She tasted like mint tea. 17 years later, you still remember that tiny detail, which means the Civic must still be carrying it somewhere inside its frame, in a parking lot you'll never find, inside a version of yourself that no longer exists except for the imprint left on a driver's seat that was never worth saving, and that today you'd pay an unreasonable amount of money to sit in just one one more time. You sell the Civic for $900. This time, you don't stand in the driveway. You've already learned that watching a car disappear hurts far more than simply walking inside. $500,000. You're 31. You buy your very first brand new car. $34,000. Monthly payment, $389. Leather seats, Bluetooth, backup camera, a dashboard that glows instead of rattles. In every measurable way, it is better than the Civic. Quieter, smoother. The seats don't carry anyone else's shape. They're factory fresh. No stranger's outline. No forgotten commute. This car is yours in a way the Camry and the Civic never truly were. Completely untouched. Completely without history. You don't wash it on Sundays. Instead, you pay $19 at a drive-through car wash and sit inside while giant brushes dance around a car you haven't touched with your own hands since the day you drove it off the lot. The attendant at the exit wipes the mirrors with a chamois, quickly, the way someone handles an object that belongs to somebody else. You hand him a $2 tip. He nods. You drive away in a car that's spotless, but one you never actually cleaned yourself. Your mother sees the new car when you pull into the driveway for Thanksgiving. She walks around it once. Slowly, she reaches out and touches the hood with one finger, almost like she's checking if it's real. She says it's very nice. Then she says it again. The second time, she isn't talking about the car. She's measuring the distance between the son who used to wash a leaking Civic with a borrowed towel, and the son who just arrived in something worth more than her entire kitchen renovation. At the dinner table, she asks if you've been eating enough. She never brings up the car again. Secretly, you wish she would. You drive 11,000 miles that first year. Less than the Civic. More than you'll ever drive another car from this point forward. This new car becomes the highest point on your mileage curve, and you don't realize it yet, the same way you never understand the shape of a journey until you've already crossed the peak and are looking back. $1 million. You're 35. You buy a $58,000 BMW in mineral white metallic. You spend 40 minutes choosing the color on the configurator, more time than you spent picking your apartment. The first time you pull up to a restaurant in the BMW, the valet opens your door differently than he opened the Hyundai part just ahead of you. You noticed it. The Hyundai's door, he opened with one hand, half turned, already looking toward the next car. Yours, he opened with both hands, shoulders squared, making full eye contact. 17 seconds apart. Same valet. Same door. Different car. The BMW bought you 17 seconds of a stranger's complete attention. $58,000 for 17 seconds. You never did that math back then. You're doing it now. You start parking at the far edge of every lot just to avoid other cars, which means you walk farther now than you ever did when you drove the Civic. At every grocery store, you inspect the doors for fresh dings. One tiny scratch from a restaurant parking lot on 3rd Street costs $470 to repair. The Civic already had a scratch when you bought it. You never fixed it. You loved that car anyway. The BMW demands maintenance the same way a reputation does, constantly, expensively, and for an audience you'll probably never meet. The BMW loses $11,000 in value during the very first year. $11,000. That's 5 Civics. 5 cars you could have bought, driven across the country, washed every Sunday, kissed someone inside, or sat in after getting fired. 5 entire lifetimes on 4 wheels disappear in just 12 months of depreciation. The Civic cost you 3 cents a mile. The BMW costs $1.17. You never calculated that back then. You're calculating it now, standing in a parking lot, staring at a tiny door ding you're about to spend $470 to erase. One Thursday, you run into Nora at a gas station. She's filling up a Subaru with a child's car seat in the back. She notices the BMW. Her eyes stay on it for 2 seconds longer than a glance, and 1 second shorter than a stare. She smiles and says, "You're doing well." You answer, "I'm doing okay." She drives away in the Subaru with the car seat still in the back. You stand there at the pump, watching until she disappears around the corner. And what you feel isn't pride about the BMW. What you feel is the quiet weight of realizing the greatest ride of your life happened in a worn-out Civic with a broken heater, beside a woman who tasted like mint tea, and you're standing next to $58,000 worth of proof that you've been trying to replace that moment ever since. $5 million. You're 41. A Porsche. $112,000. The same car you stood frozen staring at when you were 19, parked outside the restaurant where you worked bussing tables. Grease stained your apron. The Porsche was silver. And all you could think was, one day, that dream cost you nothing. The car costs you $1,400 a month in payments, insurance, and a parking space in a garage that charges more per square foot than your very first apartment. You drive it only on weekends, 47 miles a week. Your Civic used to cover 47 miles before lunch. Then one Saturday night, sleep won't come. So you do exactly what you used to do at 22 in the Civic. You grab the keys. You drive. Highway. 1 a.m. windows down, no destination. You merge onto the interstate and floor it. The Porsche does in 4 seconds what the Civic couldn't do in 4 lifetimes. The highway is empty. The engine sings like money burning at 3,000 revolutions per minute. And you wait, not for the speed, not for the sound, for the feeling. That exact feeling of being 22, broke, driving a car that rattled at 70, with no idea where you were going and not caring. Because the uncertainty was the freedom. And the freedom was the whole point. Now you're doing 94 in a Porsche on the exact same highway you drove 1,000 times in that old Civic. The road hasn't changed. The night feels the same, only you have changed. And somehow, the feeling never arrives. You ease off the throttle, take the next exit, drive home. Your father never got to see the Porsche. He passed away before you bought it. He would have rested one hand on the hood, smiled, and said, "Be careful." He said that about every car. He meant far more than cars. The Porsche spends 6 days a week sitting in the garage. You pay insurance for all 7. Somewhere along the journey, everything flipped. The cars became better. The miles became fewer. The money kept rising. The driving slowly disappeared. One evening you do the math. Because somewhere between the Civic and the BMW, math became something you do, a habit. The Porsche costs you $46 for every mile you drive. The Civic cost 3 cents. You're paying 1,500 times more per mile for a car that gives you 1/15 of the miles. You close the calculator, and this time, you don't open it again, because some numbers, once you see them, change the temperature of every room the car is parked in. $10 million. 3 cars. A Mercedes sedan for daily use, conservative, quiet, almost invisible, chosen specifically so nobody notices. A Porsche for weekends. A McLaren for special occasions that, somehow, still haven't arrived. The McLaren has 1,200 miles in 2 years. 1,200. Your father's Camry did 1,200 miles every 6 weeks. Your Civic did 1,200 miles in a month. The McLaren is the most expensive thing you've ever bought. It's also the thing you've spent the least time inside. This year, you've spent more hours in your dentist's chair than in the McLaren. The dentist's chair cost you nothing. The McLaren cost you $278,000. Now it sits under a cover in the garage, the way expensive things sit when nobody uses them. Still, waiting, almost forgetting what motion feels like. You hired someone to start the cars once a week so the batteries don't die. His name is Jerome. He comes every Tuesday, starts each car, lets it idle for 15 minutes, checks the tire pressure, leaves. Jerome drives your cars more consistently than you do. You pay him $400 a month for that. He drives a 2011 Kia Forte with a dent in the bumper and a daughter in community college. Every Tuesday, he parks it beside your McLaren. You've never looked at his car. He's never not looked at yours. One Tuesday, you come home early. The garage door is open. Jerome is sitting in the McLaren. Not starting it, just sitting. Both hands on the steering wheel, eyes closed. He isn't stealing anything. He isn't doing anything wrong. He's sitting in a car that costs more than his house and feeling what it feels like to be inside something he may never own. 30 seconds, maybe 40, then he opens his eyes, steps out, starts the engine, and moves to the next car. You watch from the driveway. You don't say a word. You walk inside, and that's when it hits you. Jerome, in 40 seconds with his eyes closed, experienced more of the McLaren than you have in 2 years. He found the thing the car was supposed to give you. He found it for free. You paid $278,000 and never found it. $50 million. 8 cars. A climate-controlled garage. A separate electrical panel. A dehumidifier system. Insurance, $47,000 a year. Combined value, $4.7 million. Combined miles driven last year, 3,400. Just 3,400 miles. 8 cars. Your father's Camry, in the 3 years you drove it, covered 61,000 miles. Your Civic, in the 4 years you owned it, covered 77,000. 1 car. No luxury garage. No special insurance rider. No Jerome. One quiet Wednesday evening, after the house has gone still, you walk through the garage. You pass the Ferrari you bought because it was the perfect vintage, the perfect color, and because your advisor said it would appreciate. He was right. It appreciated. It also hasn't moved in 4 months. You walk past the Bentley you drove to a charity gala in November, and haven't started since. You pass the Aston Martin that looks exactly the way money sounds. If money has a sound, at this level, it's quiet. You stop at the end of the row. Stand there for a moment, then pull out your phone, open the browser, type 2006 Honda Civic Silver. You scroll through listings. Too many miles. Not enough miles. Wrong color. Wrong year. You're not searching for a car. You're searching for a very specific 77,000 miles. The miles that held the parking garage after you got fired. The miles that held Nora, mint tea, and a heater that only worked with the engine running. The miles that held every Sunday morning. A bucket, a sponge, a parking lot, washing a car that wasn't worth washing, but meant everything. Finally, you find one. Same generation, same color, 198,000 miles, someone else's miles, someone else's parking lots, someone else's 1 a.m. highway. You stare at it for a long time. You don't buy it. Not because of the price. You close the browser, slip the phone back into your pocket, and walk through the garage once more. $4.7 million worth of cars, 3,400 miles a year, one Civic, $2,200. 77,000 miles. Your father's Camry, $600. 61,000 miles. A driver's seat worn into the shape of a man who always said, "Be careful," then handed you the keys with both hands, like the object weighed more than it looked. He was right about that. You walk inside. The house is silent. Behind you, the garage hums, keeping 8 cars at the perfect temperature, the perfect humidity, the perfect silence. None of them are going anywhere tonight. The most expensive car you ever owned cost $2,200. You sold it for $900. Not the car, the miles.